Hi, I'm Carmen DeVito, garden designer here in New York City, and today we're going to talk about some tastes of Italy. I'm going to talk about three plants that I love to grow together: tomato, basil, and radicchio. You probably don't know that I was born in Italy and I came here as a child, and that I love tomatoes. In fact, every year my family and I can bushels and bushels of tomatoes. We use San Marzano tomatoes to use as whole tomatoes, and then we use those same tomatoes to make a puree. So now we're going to talk about which tomatoes I like to grow and why, and how you can grow them. And then we'll pot up an actual container with all the ingredients. So let's talk about the tomatoes that I'm going to grow this year and why I like them. There's going to be four types. The first type is called Costoluto Genovese. It's an early 19th century variety, and it's called an heirloom. And you're going to see that word heirloom when you buy tomato plants or tomato seeds. And what an heirloom is basically an open pollinated, not a hybrid. In English, basically that means that you can save the seeds and the plants that result from them are going to be pretty close to the parent. That's what an heirloom is. And also it's used to refer to some older varieties. I grow this one because it's really delicious for slicing or for making sauce. Another one that I love to grow is called Cherokee Purple, and that's pre-1890, also an heirloom, open pollinated and not a hybrid. And I like this for its meaty taste, really tomatoey taste, and for slicing. And that's this one here. Third tomato is Sun Gold. This is probably the sweetest tomato I've ever tasted, and this is a hybrid. So if you save the seeds from this tomato and you try to grow it the following year, it might not come out exactly as this parent. There might be some variation. And all these tomatoes are called indeterminate. A lot of times you'll see that in a seed catalog, or you'll see it at the nursery or on the plant tag. That just means that the plant keeps on growing and making tomatoes throughout the season, which is what I prefer. I don't want a tomato that ripens all its tomatoes at once. I'm not a market grower. I want to grow them and pick them throughout the season. So look for indeterminate tomatoes. And finally, the last one that I'm going to grow is also a hybrid. It's actually a mutation, a natural mutation that was discovered in 2003, and it's called Black Cherry. And it's very, very sweet. And I like to blend these two in salads. Having the yellow and the red, the dark purpley red together is really, really nice. Okay, I have a confession to make before we do the planting of the container. I did something that I am always telling people not to do. I put my plants out too early, and this is the result. Look at this pathetic basil. Most of them died, and this one looks sickly and horrible. I didn't wait until after the last frost. I decided to put them outside and try to harden them off, which means basically trying to acclimate them to the outdoors too soon. And they got frostbitten and rotten, and they all died. So I had to go buy new basil, which I did. But learn your lesson from me. Don't put things out. Whatever zone or climate you're in, wait until after the last frost date. Our last frost date here is May 15th, so I feel comfortable planting my basil and my tomatoes now because I know that it's going to be safe. There's probably not going to be another frost, hopefully. To say a little bit more about basil, basil is in the mint family, and it's also not native to Italy. Tomatoes are not native to Italy. They're native to the Americas. Basil is native to subtropical and tropical regions of Africa and Asia, and there's like so many different types. The types that I usually like to grow is the sweet basil or the Italian basil, but there's so many types: purple and spicy Thai, and even African basil and blue basil. Pick your favorite. They're kind of really easy to grow. Okay, so now we've already prepared the container that we're going to use for these plants. This planter is almost 2 feet wide and about 18 inches deep, and you need a pretty big container to grow these tomatoes and all these other herbs. So I put a really rich potting soil in here, and I left just about 1 inch or 2 below the top of the rim. And now I'm going to work in the fertilizer. I like to just do it all at once. This is about 1.5 cups of all-purpose fertilizer, and I mix it all in, get it kind of into the root zone like that, and as it gets watered, it'll break down and get into the plants. So I always start from the back. In this container I'm going to put the Costoluto Genovese tomato, and the indeterminate tomatoes, as I was telling you about, they continue to grow all throughout the season, so they get taller and taller. So I'm going to put this guy in the back. I'm going to loosen up. It doesn't have a very massive root system, but I'm going to loosen up the root system a little bit, and I'm going to bury it a little bit deeper than what is planted now to try to kind of stabilize it. I like to keep my little plant tags so I remember what was planted. And then I got some new basil. This one I wanted to try is called columnar basil. So in this pot, I'm going to put 2 basil plants. One here. And they grow very well with the tomato. They have very similar requirements, so I can put them together. These little baby plants. And I'm spacing them out like that. And as I pinch them and use them, once they've grown a little bit, they'll get bushy and beautiful. This tomato plant is going to get quite large. And I'll show you what to do to kind of manage it. And then lastly, I'm going to put in this beautiful radicchio. This little baby one. This is actually kind of a cool weather plant, and it's going to get a lot bigger. I'm going to give it plenty of room. And the reason I'm putting it with the tomato and basil is because this is a cool weather crop, as I said, and in the heat of the summer it likes a little bit of shade. So the tomato plant is going to give it a little bit of a shade umbrella. Now there's a lot of room here, as you can see, a lot of soil, but believe me, this is going to be quite full by the end. So after I plant, and of course I'm going to water it really, really well, I like to set up my tomato cages right away. If I wait, like I've done in the past sometimes, till later, then the plant is out of control and it doesn't, I can't control it, and I break the foliage and it's kind of a mess. So before the plant has really started rooting and growing, I make my cage. For tomatoes, I use 4 stakes, and these are about 4 feet tall. The plant will probably outgrow that, but this is what I have right now, and I'll probably pinch it. And as I had done before, I use this florist twine, okay, to make my own. But you can just buy a tomato cage. You don't have to make it. But if you wanted to and you had bamboo, you just start here. I start somewhere about 12 inches from the top of the soil. The tomato grows really, really fast. Wrap it around a few times to kind of get it to stick. Same thing here. A couple times. Try to cut the twine longer than you think, because like I've done in the past, I cut it too short that I have to start over. And then I tie it off here. And then I'm going to continue every foot or so all the way to the top. Thanks for watching my video. You can find me at DeVito. I'm here right now in a part of my garden. These are actually garlic, but ornamental garlic. And when they're finished, I have a special project planned for this garage wall. These trellises are much too small for the kind of vegetables that I want to grow, so I'm going to make a much bigger kind of support system where we can do some vertical vegetable gardening. So tune back in to learn how we did it and see the transformation. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and keep growing.